He is the modern-day Don Nehlen.
But Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread.
He's bought into the program.
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sounds of Golden Blue football.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
Let them know. Leave no doubt tonight. Leave no doubt tonight. No doubt. They shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue.
I was watching ESPN today and they showed a little thing about our game tonight in a poll. And the whole U.S. was covered in red. And the only state, the greatest state in the nation, was covered in blue, and that was West Virginia. And that's why we won this game.
Trust the climb.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Jordan Cruz back here with the Country Roads Webcast. We decided to come at you with a special, another surprise impromptu live stream. Try and get a little bit more Q&A going. Figured, first week of fall camp kind of ended today. Neil Brown had a press conference, said some interesting things, got some interesting tidbits out. So why not do a live stream? I did one the other night by myself. Had a lot of fun. Got Bradley to join me this time. How's it going, Brad?
It's going well. Just another day in paradise.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully Stephen may be able to hop in later. We're going to see what happens with that. He had something come up, but we'll see. But for now, me and Brad are in here. Everyone encouraged to hop in the chat, drop your WVU football questions, comments, concerns. We'll address whatever here, but just want to talk a little bit, Brad, about the first week of fall camp. I know Neil Brown had a presser today. A lot of assistant coaches have spoken this week. Whether it be from today or just something this week that really stood out to you, what are some of the storylines that you thought emerged that were either surprising to you or really pleasant for you to hear?
Yeah, I actually haven't got to listen to Neil Brown's press conference today. I've been just a little preoccupied. I haven't got a chance to really sit down and listen to it, so I'm glad I'll be able to get some of that reaction from you. You tell me what's up. I know you've talked about CJ. I'll let you touch on him because I know that's something you probably want to cover yourself there because you'll probably know a little bit more about that than I do. But going into it, these interviews, I was looking forward to two people. I was really looking forward to Shadon Brown, and I was looking forward to Graham Harrell, obviously, just hearing what those guys have to say because I think that's some of our biggest question marks. And, I was really hoping to hear that we would have Jacoby Spells getting a shot out there, but it seems like they're really going to be forcing those guys into some special team roles early on just to get them some snaps and stuff. I really thought that he could be pushing for a starting position, but it seems like those transfers that we had come in really cemented themselves there in that dog mentality. They got it. So other than that, Graham Harrell, I wanted to hear what he said about the quarterbacks. They're still keeping it pretty close to the vest. And I think it's pretty telling that we haven't had a guy leave yet. I mean, we still going into fall camp, we've still got 4 quarterbacks on the roster, 1 5-star, 2 4-stars, and a 3-star recruit, that we thought we were at least going to lose one of those by this point in time, and we haven't yet. So what does that mean? I don't know. Does that mean a good thing, a bad thing? I'm not sure, but it means something. Yeah,
definitely. I think it just depends on, if you're a glass half full or glass half empty kind of person. I guess you can look at it whichever way, really. But, yeah, I think, there's been a lot of interesting things that have come out. And I know you mentioned it briefly, and you said, you kind of wanted me to touch on it. But I think to me that's been, I guess, the biggest – well, I don't know if it's the biggest, but definitely to me the most surprising or eye-opening storyline that I've seen emerge from the week 1 of fall camp, and that's the C.J. Donaldson storyline. I know when he
Mhm.
committed, I believe he was he an athlete, listed as an athlete, Brad?
Yeah, I think so. But I think that we did pull him up as a tight end. When I was checking him out again, because I just wanted to run back at it to double check. He played tight end at his high school, but he also played wide receiver, and everybody listed him as an athlete pretty much. They said he's a guy that's going to be all over the field, that's got that he's just got that athleticism and that size to do it. So
Yeah, so I know when they committed that they had said that they really liked his athleticism and thought they could move him all around the field. And so I knew he was coming in as a tight end, but I thought for sure, he'd be like one of those developmental type players, have to, redshirt, and then maybe they'd use him a little bit more. But I didn't know when they said they use him all over the field that they meant that they literally would, put him, I figured maybe out receiver, but, the big storyline that's come out now is that they've actually moved him to running back. West Virginia kind of short on scholarship running backs, losing Lynn J. Dixon late like they did. Only had 3 scholarship running backs and Marquand Rucker on the roster. And so they add C.J. Donaldson to that backfield as a 4th running back. And also they said they feel like he can play receiver, he can play tight end. And, even when they said that early in the week, we heard Chad Scott announce the position change, I still thought, okay, they're putting him a running back just to develop him there. And then, maybe next year develop him more at tight end and receiver. And you're going to be a guy you see in the future. But what really shocked me is in Neil Brown's press conference today, mentioned C.J. Donaldson multiple times, but the one thing he said that stood out is he will play. He said, you guys will see him. We feel like he can create matchup problems because where he can line up all over the field. So that was really eye-opening to me that he said he's going to play right away as a true freshman. So got to be talented.
yeah, and I'm glad to fill up that 4th spot. Losing Lynn J. Dixon is what it is. And, I didn't take it too much to heart. I didn't think that Lynn J was really going to quite fit in once, you heard some rumors over the offseason that he was just kind of reluctant to get in there and do what the coaching staff was asking him to do. So I don't think there's any, a big loss there. But hearing a guy come in and really make his name for himself is something you like to hear. And they're talking about how he comes in just with a good mentality. And I think that goes a long way. And I'm glad to see that rewarded in our program because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the guys that want to try hard and go out of their way and make the extra effort. We're blue collar people. We're looking for blue collar guys, and that's what he seems like he is. So,
yeah, absolutely. That's another thing that stood out to me. Shadon Brown, like you said, the blue collar mentality. He was talking about like the JUCO players and the FCS players have that blue collar mentality, and he feels like that's what this state thrives on, and that's what this team needs to thrive on is that blue collar, hard working mentality. So I love that as well. Something that came out. Got Kuz's corner in here. What's going on, Kuz, man? Good to hear from you. Always good to see you in here.
thanks for tuning in,
I was
Kuz.
watching your fall camp recap today, actually. A lot of good tidbits in there.
Yeah, so you had Big Boomer on too, the Big Boomer Sooner. That's pretty good. I'll have to check that one out a little bit later on.
Yeah, I haven't got to watch that one
Big
yet,
Game
but I'm
Boomer, that's
interested
what it
to
is.
check that one out. Big Game Boomer, he's a polarizing guy, right? Some people love him, some people hate him, but I think it's pretty awesome. Yeah, I think it's awesome what he does. I know a lot of hard work has to go into making all those lists and stuff for sure, as much as he pumps them out. So I'm interested to see some of his takes and stuff. I know he's really down on West Virginia this year. I've seen that. So I think he has us like 9th or 10th in the Big 12. So
yeah, but that's not too unheard of this year. Somebody, I think I did listen to a little bit of Neil Brown's press conference today. Did he bring up Asani Redwood? Somebody did. I swear somebody did.
Yeah, he did.
Hey,
I think the question was like freshmen or newcomers that stood out to you, and Asani Redwood was like the first one he mentioned. He said he gained 90 pounds over the past year. He's like 280 now.
Again, and I want to reiterate to the people that are watching, Asani Redwood had 20 sacks in his last year in high school. I'm pretty sure 20 sacks in Georgia football, and I think that they went on to the state championship or at least the finals. That is a crazy statistic, no matter what level of football you're at. So, I keep telling people, Asani Redwood, it's a guy to keep your eyes on. If not this year, definitely for next year, because he's going to be the real one when it comes his time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's going to be a heck of a pass rusher for the Mountaineers. Something that they really, are going to need here coming up in the future. You got Taj Alston and Dante Stills, guys that are older in your program. So bringing in good talent like that's really good for the future. Trying to get up in here and chat. My screen's so far away, I can't hardly see it. I swear I need to get some glasses. I'm zooming in a little bit here. Hold on one second.
Gotcha. I'll cover a little bit while you're looking at it. Yeah, Koo says he's pumped CJ too because people are really pumping him up. I'm going to say it's hard to not be excited about that guy, and as well as Lee Pogba. It's kind of hard to also not be excited about that guy, the way that people are talking about him, just how he loves the game of football, and he's just down to play, man. He's going to be guys going to be zooming all over the field. But, yeah, Asani Redwood could really be that next Bruce Irvin type that just really dominates that line. So, I've been high up on him and ever since we got him. I think that he's just when it blew my mind when we got him as a recruit, pulling him out of Georgia, stealing one, and to hear that he's put on 90 pounds is crazy.
Yeah, he's huge, and I think he's kept his speed from what I can tell. That his athleticism still remains intact, and I think he could be a good rusher off the edge. Got my screen fixed up here. David Phillips, I'm hyped about CJ. Yeah, me and David were texting about that the other day, talking about CJ. I texted him when the position change happened, and texted him today when I heard the news about him actually playing this year and probably not redshirt. And so we've been talking about that a little bit. I think it's good. I mean, the guy's 240 pounds, but obviously he's athletic enough. They feel he can play receiver, running back, and tight end. So I think he's like a 4.6 40 or something like that. So for that size, he can really move. So it's a different type of guy that could create matchup problems. Definitely excited about him. Willie P66 here on Twitch. That's good to see somebody tuning in on Twitch. This is the first year.
Nice.
Last year, we started our live streams. This year, we decided to add Twitch to get a third platform. So glad to see somebody tuning in on Twitch. Appreciate it, Willie P66. What game do you think is the most anticipated at home?
Wow,
that's tough, Brad. What do you got? You got anything? I got to think about that.
I got to look at it. Let me see who we got coming up here. I know which one. My favorite game of the year is always the Halloween game. That's one that I always try to go to. And I know it's TCU this year, which should hopefully be a stop. So I'm not going to say that one. Let's see here. Check this shit because we got Texas away, right? Texas is in Texas.
Yeah, Texas is at Texas, right? Yeah, I believe so. Let me
yeah.
The schedule here. I had it pulled up just a little bit earlier.
All right, so I would say looking at it off the jump, if we have the start to the year that I think that we could have going into it, we're looking at 3-1, 4-1, maybe 3-2. I think Baylor coming in the second weekend in August there, October 13th at 7 p.m. It's going to be a night game. Morgantown's going to be rowdy. I'm sure Baylor's going to be looking good. That's probably going to be one of the more exciting games to attend to. And it should be two really good teams. And, we like to show up in our own home field. So making that a game against the previous, the returning Big 12 champions, that's got to be the one to have circled on your calendar, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. Baylor preseason conference favorite, won it last year. So definitely that's a good pick. Just to be different, I'll say Oklahoma because I think that this could be the year. I know it feels like we say that every year, but last year they really should have had them. And this year I think West Virginia's going to have a better team offensively. Oklahoma is going to have a whole new coaching staff. I know it's later in the season. There'll probably be more clicking then, but, you're not going to get too many more shots at them. And this will probably be the last time you play them in Morgantown. So to me, that's maybe the most anticipated. I'll go Oklahoma since you went Baylor, but I think it's between the two. David Phillips, CJ should really be an Aaron Hernandez type player, just without the homicide stuff. Yeah, I think he's. I think we're good on that side of it. Hopefully, he's just as good on the field. We can hope for.
I don't know if he's going to appreciate that comparison or not, but
yeah, I mean, on the field wise, maybe. I mean, he was a beast on the field, but that's another subject. That's a rabbit hole I'm not going to go down.
Gotcha.
Let's see. Willie P66. Thanks, guys. Love the content. Yep. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Hopefully get more of a following going on Twitch. That helps grow the brand here, Country Roads Webcast. So, and that's another thing. On Twitch we'll have the live streams up there, and YouTube has the live streams, and I think they're up on our Facebook too. But those some of these streams that we do right here randomly through the off season, and right now this fall camp recap are just kind of exclusive to those platforms. They're not part of the podcast necessarily. We don't put them up on the audio side. So definitely, subscribing on YouTube or following on Twitch. Facebook's good to get a little bit extra content that you don't get just on the podcast side. So that's definitely a plus, and we appreciate you tuning in there on Twitch, Willie P66. But that being said, Bradley, got to talk quarterbacks, I guess. We're talking week one recap. They're not really divulging too much. I know early first couple of days, the report, JT Daniels threw a couple interceptions, which who knows, they were still not even in shoulder pads at that point. I think they're going to be full pads for the first time tomorrow or Monday. First scrimmage of fall will be Thursday. They're going to do 2 of those. And then after that, it'll be time for pit preparations, doing their scrimmages on Thursday since they're playing on Thursday. First one coming up this Thursday. That being said, Bradley, quarterback, any doubt in your mind, anybody other than JT? I know today Neil Brown mentioned Nico had his best day throwing the football. Garrett Green led a great 2-minute drill. And, of course, commented about JT's leadership and, of course, his ability in being the player that they thought that he would be. But in your mind, is there any doubt it's going to be JT Daniels? And how long do you think they stretch this out before they announce it?
No, I think it's going to be JT Daniels through and through. I think that he's just got the talent that we're looking for, and he's the best chance. I think it had to have been Chris Anderson and Mike Asaza talking about it. Had to have been beginning of the year. And they were talking about the difference when you look at this team and take JT Daniels out of it, and you're looking at Garrett Green and Nico Marchio. Where would you put our quarterbacks at in the Big 12? Well, it's got to be towards the bottom of it. Has to be. It has to be towards the bottom of the Big 12 right now, out of expected. You throw JT Daniels in there, he's immediately considered one of the top 3, if 4, if not 3 quarterbacks going into the Big 12. So it's just like a massive kind of jump. So I just don't know how he doesn't go in there and win the starting job. But like I said earlier, what really intrigues me is the fact that we haven't had a guy leave yet. And I know we've all been toying with the idea of Garrett Green maybe switching over to a wide receiver or running back spot. And man, it's just interesting to think about. And I know Graham Harrell was talking about, I think in his interview last week, he was talking about narrowing down. Somebody asked me a question, when do you start making that decision? He said, we'll go from 3 and, if 2 of them start separating ourselves, and we'll really focus on those 2. And then when it comes down to those 2, one of them's going to have to separate themselves, because that's as goes with quarterback battles. They decide for themselves. It's not a close race that, one thing happens. It's got to be a man that pulls apart. So I think we're starting to get to that point where it's going to be 2 players that we're focusing on, and who that second one's going to be, I'm not sure. It could be Garrett Green. It could be Nico. But other than that, man, they're playing it so tight to the chest that it's really hard to tell where they're going with it.
Yeah, that's true. It really is. I think, like you said, it's inevitably JT. I think to me, the more interesting thing to look at is who is going to be that backup quarterback that's going to come in if something was to happen. And is Garrett Green going to be that guy, even if there's some packages for Green? Like last year, we saw packages for Green because they wanted that running quarterback element. JT Daniels a little bit more mobile than Jarrett Dagey, but I don't think that having JT Daniels rules out packages for Garrett Green possibly. So even if he has packages, is he actually the backup quarterback that's going to take over if something were to happen, or are they going to look more to Nico and Goose? I think Goose, again, is quietly flying under the radar. He was sick, missed the first couple of days of camp, and so maybe that's why I haven't been too much said from the coaching staff about Goose. And I don't know if that's purposeful or what, because that was kind of how it was through spring as well. It seemed like a lot of talk was Garrett Green and Nico, but then Goose is the one that showed up in the spring game and had, arguably the best performance. So who knows, maybe they're letting Goose fly under the radar and he's actually going to end up the second string. But to me, that's the more interesting battle, is who ends up as the second string quarterback, what the Mountaineers do there, especially with JT Daniels' history, not playing in more than 5 games in a whole year since, 2018. So hopefully, knock on wood. That we
I think something that could be really, really telling is like, our quarterback room has seemed to be very tight. I mean, even with all the competition going on and, somebody's going to win that job, they still all seem to be really, really close to each other, and they've really been building upon each other. And that's something that you love to see. So do we get to a point to where we have some packages where we have Nico and Garrett Green? And, if we pull JT Daniels out, you put in 2 unknowns back there at quarterback, the defense is not going to know what to do, especially you got 2 mobile quarterbacks back there. I mean, it's just like so many question marks, and I don't know why you wouldn't have something like that in your package. Just pull out your bag of tricks. You throw out Nico and Garrett Green out there. Defense doesn't know what's coming at them. So even if we see JT Daniel come, like that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be JT Daniel on the field with Garrett Green. It could be Nico and Garrett Green going out there and really throwing a wrench into it. And if you see something like that, then I think that's just a real testament to how Neil Brown has this team feeling and how this camaraderie is kind of building. Especially amongst our quarterback room.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that camaraderie, that's one of the things that, also stood out when, I think it might have been Neil Brown. I can't remember who was talking about it. It was one of the coaches' interviews I heard this week. I feel like it was Neil Brown, but he said, that's the thing, is that JT Daniels and Nico Marchio have actually really taken to each other, and JT's kind of for lack of a better word, taking Nico under his wing and is really, showing him the ropes and trying to coach him up, even when they're not playing and they're spending a lot of time together in the film room and stuff like that. And I think, for the future of West Virginia football, you couldn't have anything better because hopefully, fingers crossed, you get JT Daniels for 2 years. But Nico Marchiol is the future of the program. And if, you get him, passing the inevitable torch, to Nico, that's great, especially if we have the type of season that we feel like West Virginia can have this season with JT Daniels. So that's bold, and that speaks to the camaraderie you're talking about, and I think that goes back to a lot of the changes they made in the offseason, being selective with the players on the roster, advising some guys to maybe be best, if they've moved somewhere else that they thought didn't fit the culture, and now really got this culture established. And so, in your opinion, I know a lot of the coaches have talked about, OTAs making a difference, and that's why they're looking more polished here in fall camp. But in your opinion, do you think a lot of that is attributed to the culture change as well, and that Neil Brown finally having pretty much all his roster here now?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with trimming the fat. I think that, he's just kind of had this clutter of a room so far where you got some decent players and you got kids that want to try, kids that don't want to try, kids that aren't happy there, but they're great athletes. And, he just got to that point where it's like, well, I don't know how to handle this. And it's, if this would have been 2 years ago, it probably would have been even worse for him. But with the world we live in today, with the transfer portal and stuff like that, it really gave him a chance to be like, if you guys don't like it here, go somewhere else. And like, it'll be better for you. It'll be better for me. And we'll all be happy all the way around. And he knew he was going to take his licks for it. I'm sure he knew coming out of it, except for losing the few that he didn't really expect to lose, like Akeem Messidor and stuff like that. He knew what he was going to be getting from it. But I think that he also knew on the other end that he was going to pull in 30 some odd players and, at least over 1,000 snaps from other schools himself and just be able to put a good quality product on the field. And so now it's giving him a chance to make sure that he has the right guys in the right spot. And, the only people that want to be here are the only people that are here are the people that want to be here. So, yeah, without a doubt, I think that it's helped out a lot.
Definitely. I agree. I think that this is going to be the turning point where we see, the trust the climb stuff, the mantra, why they made that the mantra, and why they've been trying to build like that, and why people should trust that proverbial climb. And I think this year is the first year hopefully we see some of that come to fruition. Fingers crossed, but that's what I'm hoping to catch up here and chat a little bit. Kyle Harris, you're on to something with this one, bro. Hey, I really appreciate that, man. I mean, that means a lot. Hopefully, I think that this is going to be the 5th season of the podcast, of course, but last year was the first year we really decided to, try and get on and do the video side as well with, live streaming the reactions and not just doing previews and reactions and audio only, but bringing in the video side a little bit. And then this off season really decided to kind of put our foot down and focus on this YouTube side a little bit and put out, some YouTube exclusive things on the YouTube side, video side, to try and grow that up, because it felt like that would help more people, find the podcast. And then when the season comes around, the people that we built in the off season will not only have them, but, other people that, tune in more to look for West Virginia football content when it's going on. So think that that's really helped a lot, is getting this video side up, and we're really enjoying it a lot, especially these live streams is something where we can really interact. And that's the one thing we've talked about a lot is for us, we just do this as a hobby for us three. We want to do it for the people that can't get enough WVU football content, like, myself, and then also driving people crazy in my life talking about it too much. It's an outlet for me to be able to do that as well as Bradley and Steven, of course. And then really just build a community where people can come, get away from the negativity of everyday life, politics, the real world, whatever. Just sit back and know it's just WVU football talk, WVU sports talk, and just Mountaineers, and hopefully create a great Country Roads Webcast community where it's just, friends talking West Virginia football and West Virginia sports. So really appreciate that, Kyle. That means a lot. Cliffhanger, let's go. What's up, guys? Cliff, I don't think I've seen you in here before. Good to see you.
Yeah,
welcome. If this is your first time, hopping in a stream, good to see you in the chat. I really appreciate it. Cooz's Corner, everyone that's on here, please tap the like button real quick. Yeah, great point,
hit that like button.
Really appreciate that, Kooz. And Kooz is
helps
really
us out a lot.
If you're following us and you love W football and you're not following Kooz, I'm sure you already are. He's has a heck of a following and is really great at what he does. But Kooz is a really great guy that we consider a friend, personally, and here on YouTube as well with growing the West Virginia brand. But appreciate that, Kooz, and definitely hit that like button. That helps this video hit the YouTube algorithm. Not only helps this video performance, but helps future video performances as well. It helps them get suggested more and more people see them, helps us spread to more Mountaineer Nation. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Like we always like to say, helps us, helps you, helps get more of this Mountaineer football content out to Mountaineer Nation. And then, while I'm promoting some stuff, as always, the link to our merch store is in the video description down below. It'll be in the on the YouTube side there. You can check it out in the video description.
Yeah, get you some stuff with our face on it.
Hat. Yeah, all three of our faces on it. Country Roads Webcast hat, shirt, phone case, sticker, whatever you like. Get you something with the CRW logo on it. That helps support the brand as well. So really appreciate that. But try and catch up here again. Kyle Harris, this is really up your alley. This is going to be big. Proud of you, bro. Thanks, Kyle. That really does mean a lot, and hopefully, that'd be great. Like I said, I'd love to see it continue to grow, but at the same time, I want to try and keep it like to where I'm not just focusing on that to where it doesn't become fun, because it's like a hobby for us. And like I said, just
whether there's one of you, whether there's one person
around,
watching or 1,000, this is what we're going to be here doing. So
exactly. And I feel like we're the type of people that's never going to change up either way, even if the channel ever does become big and the Country Roads Webcast brand ever does become big throughout Mountaineer Nation. It has grown a lot over 5 years, but no matter what, I feel like we're just going to be the same even keel and just really, like I said, try and create a great community for Mountaineer Nation. That's the goal, and just continue to grow the West Virginia brand. But really appreciate that, Kyle. And definitely I could say likewise to you, man. Proud of you and all that you've done and all of your accomplishments. I've definitely been an admirer of that and really respect you a lot, man, and appreciate that. So Kuz's Corner, Bradley and Jordan, did you notice that Neil didn't seem to be too happy in his presser today? I thought his tone seemed a little different compared to what it had been, in the past. So I think that, if you read between, sometimes with Neil, you got to read between the lines, because it's not that he's not a straight shooter, because Neil's definitely a straight shooter and he kind of tells it like it is. But sometimes, there's a little coach speak. Last year I learned, but I definitely thought his tone was a little bit different today. Brad, did you get to catch it? You said, I can't remember if you said you did or not.
Yeah, no, I caught the beginning of a little bit of it, but it was kind of my midday nap content, where I just put it on while my girl's getting ready for work, and I was just like, oh wow, I'll just listen to this while I go to sleep real quick, because I heard the Asani Redwood things, but I don't know, I didn't hear it, but I wouldn't be surprised, man. You're getting into the first week of camp, I'm sure that he's going to want. I like Neil Brown to be a little bit more. Have a little bit different tone, honestly, at this point in time, because like you said, we heard a lot of coach speak last year, so I want to hear him get a little bit more critical. I want to hear him, push those buttons a little bit more, and not just on the kids, but on the coaching staff, man. He had to go through a tough change last year where people were up in arms. He had to get rid of one of his close friends and his offensive coordinator with Gerard Parker, and moving Sean Reagan down. It was tough decisions, and Matt Moore just held on by a shoestring, honestly. I mean, with how the offensive line was last year. So I think that he's going to have to be, a little bit more serious, have a little bit more serious tone this year, and let them know, hey, this year's serious. We got to take it seriously. It's not just my job on the line, but everybody's job on the line here right now. So, I don't think he can be happy with anything right now. So I'm cool with the extra tone. I like it. I think it's an air of seriousness. The man's taking his job the way he should. So.
No, I agree. I hope that he's taking this year seriously, because I think, and Bradley, I'm trying to think how to phrase this, because I was thinking about this a little bit earlier before we recorded, talking about Neil Brown, because, a lot of people wanted to talk about him being on the hot seat, 17 and 18 through three seasons. And I think a lot of people talk about the circumstances as well, though, that he's had to navigate with New World, with NIL, transfer portal, and then he had the COVID year as well. And then not to mention the fact that the program was in dismay when he took over. Only 50,
when he came in,
50-some scholarship players, just terrible roster that's taken him, to now to rebuild to even be right at the scholarship, limit of 85, and we're at like 81 or 82. First year we've been able to be right up there. So having said that, this, there is always comes a point where you have to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, I can't, go with this anymore if, we're not winning games. I love Neil Brown to death. I'm in his corner, and I'm not saying I'm to that point yet or anything like that, but what I'm saying is this year could be the year where you draw the line in the sand. Do you feel that way, that if this year West Virginia doesn't win, some more games, I don't know if it's a certain number or anything, that this is where you draw the line in the sand and say, I don't know if this is the right direction anymore, or do you think it's beyond here?
Yeah, I kind of touched on this when I did a live podcast with Golden Blue Dude on the Voice of College Football last night. Coos was also on there for a little while. And I talked about, I don't think that there's a number of wins and losses. Obviously, we can't go 5-7. 6-6 would be 6-6 would be pretty disappointing. But to me, it's just the way the product looks on the field that's really going to affect Neil Brown's job. If he comes out and we're having to call timeouts before we even run our first play in the second half, not good. If we're getting consistent offsides penalties, not good. Delay games, not good. Wasting timeouts, not good. And those are things that's got to be cleaned up this year. That's something I absolutely will not let him get by with this year. And like I've said before, we're all Neil Brown fans on this podcast. And, I would even admit that I was a bit of a Dana Holgorsen apologist. I really fought for that guy until the very end and put my blinders on for him because he just had good offense and, he played an exciting brand of football. And I promised myself that I wouldn't do that with Neil Brown. But when it comes to it, I'm even more bought in on him because I love his family aspect. I love the way that man brings his culture up. I love the way that he talks about his football players. I love the way that he's approached this job so far. And that's why he's got so much of my support. It's not a WVU thing. He made me a Neil Brown fan. And so I'll support him until he gives me a reason not to. But to me, I would draw the line in the sand when it comes to, for one, poor offensive line play. I think that that's something that would really put me over the edge quicker than anything else, is that, people were up in arms calling for Matt Moore's head, and Neil Brown fought for him. He didn't let him go. He just kept to testifying. That was the hardest position for us to come in and try to fix. We were absolutely bare in there. We lost, David Stills coming in. It was tough. That was a tough room to fix. But going into year 3, you now have the best possible scenario you could have as an offensive lineman. We would like to be a little bit more shored up on the right tackle, but you come in here and the offensive line looks bad again, then Neil Brown, it's on you. You allowed this to happen. You kept him around, and at the end of the day, that was, you were the reason he stayed, And so if he comes out and there's some poor line play, then that's going to be where I start drawing the line and saying, is no, we're going to have some answers here, and you're going to have to lose another friend if you don't want to lose your own job. And so that's just kind of what I'm going to look at when it comes to drawing that line in the sand.
I'd agree with that. I think for me, to me, I'm cool with him getting, one more year beyond this year, regardless of what was to happen, because I think he's bought himself a lot of goodwill this offseason, admitting that the offense has been, the part that's been struggling, and, giving up those duties and feeling like he can be better for the team, being more of a CEO, because the offense has been the weak link, and that was what he was in charge of. And so I think that bought him some goodwill, and bringing in Graham Harrell. And then, yet again, bringing in JT Daniels, I think, that added to that as well. And so I think this year is, like I said, it's a big year for me. I don't know if it's the year where I'll necessarily draw that line in the sand. But I think if the offense shows improvement, then no matter what, I'm still in. I'm all in. And, some people want to talk about have always talked crap about the trust the climb slogan. Personally, I've always loved it. I love they finally started dropping merch for it this year. Got a couple of Trust the Climb.
It's a brand. It's an identity, which is something we've not had.
And it literally was him saying from the beginning, trust the climb, bear with me, we'll get there, but it's going to take time. And, it has taken time, but I think, we're getting up there now. And I think this year is going to really show that with what they've done and what they've brought in, because defense has not been an issue. Defense has been great since Neil Brown's been here, in 2019. It's just been the offense. If they've had, if they had even an average offense, they'd have been good for, 2 more wins in the past, couple years. And that's 2 8-win seasons probably. And this year, bringing in Graham Harrell, JT Daniels, sky's the limit. And we're going to see what happens. Catch back up here in chat. WV Fan 23. I saw where Aaron Beasley is visiting the team this week. I'm glad that Neil Brown is a fan of former WVU players coming back to visit. Why do you think Dana never wanted former players to come back? I have no idea. I've always thought, that's something I didn't really learn until after the fact, about Dana was, stuff like that of him not really reaching out to former players or showing them any love or anything like that. And it was just a lot of things that came out about Dana after the fact, towards the end of his tenure or afterwards, as I learned about him, really painted him in a completely different light than I thought of him was throughout his tenure. And we talked about drawing lines in the sand. To me, I was all bought in on Dana forever, the whole time he was here, basically all the way up until that 2018 Oklahoma State game when they blew that 17-point lead or whatever. That's when I was kind of like, all right, it's just never gonna. And that
if
was
he
kind of
couldn't do it with the
turning
Will
point for
Greer
me.
year, he was never going to be able to do it.
And then all the things that have come out, that with the former players, and then other things, of course. If you catch my drift, if you know, I'm pretty sure most of Mountaineer Nation knows.
Whoa.
And, stuff like that, and it's kind of painted him a different light. So I don't really agree with that. Really glad Neil Brown has been the complete opposite of that. Also, Ryan Switzer, if you know, is trying to get into coaching. He renounced his retirement from football, and he's trying to get into coaching, and Neil Brown's kind of going to mentor him a little bit. He's going to be around for fall camp. I think he's arriving for week 2 and going to be around. So that's, someone else coming in.
And I think that's just something Dana – I don't think it's that he discouraged or that he never did anything like that, but I think that he just I don't think he put any value into it. I think Dana Holgorsen is a strictly X and O's kind of guy. I don't think he cared about development really all that much. I think that he just, saw good talent or saw decent talent and could put him in the right spot to really be successful, but that was about as far as it went, man. And, he was an offensive mastermind, but that's pretty much all he was. And, I mean, that's what's making his brand there in Houston. He's getting great talent. He's able to put them in the right space to where they can succeed, but that's because he's at Houston, and we were just not Houston, which just made West Virginia not the right fit for him. And so, that's where I just don't think he ever saw the value in it. And Neil Brown sees the value in it, bringing people on. And, Kus says Darius Steele said he never stepped foot in Dana Holgorsen's office. And, that's something I've heard, too. When I was working up at the hotel at Morgantown, I was lucky enough to be able to feed the team before their games and spend some time just like talking to them, interacting some. And the people that had worked there said that Dana Holgorsen during meals never talked to any of his players. He didn't want anybody to come out and talk to him. He wanted to be isolated. He wanted to be by himself. He sat there and he ate his clam chowder because he requested clam chowder be at every single meal. And that's who Dana Holgorsen was. And so, it doesn't surprise me that, Darius never stepped a foot in his office because the man just didn't care. He expected you to go out there and play football to the best of your ability and be where he told you to be, and that's about all he cared for it. So I just don't think it was a good mesh for West Virginia University. It's hard to see that until it's hard to know you're in an abusive relationship until you step out of it.
Yeah, very, very much so. And like you said, I just don't think ultimately it wasn't a good match. And I think sticking with it as long as you did, I don't blame West Virginia for doing that either, because like you said, he was an offensive mastermind, and we had some really good teams that were right there on the brink, but, ultimately they couldn't get over the hump, have a defense enough to get enough stops. And, we're seeing the alternate of that right now with the Neil Brown era. They really put a focus on building the defense, and they've done a great job of that through the first 3 years of his tenure. And, I'm hoping that it's just not a repeat and the offense never comes around. But I'm hoping if they can build the offense now, Neil Brown a little bit more hands off and be able to look at the program from afar, build the offense now the same way they did the defense, that West Virginia will finally get over that hump. And I have a little bit more faith in Neil Brown being able to do so, because he really gets West Virginia. I think the match is a whole heck of a lot better with Neil Brown than it ever was with Dana Holgorsen. But, like you said, it kind of set you back a little bit, but you didn't know that. Hindsight's 2020. Set the program back a couple years. Took Neil Brown 3 years to even get to a point now where I feel like we can compete at least this season. But you didn't. Hindsight's 2020, and you had some good teams with Dana Holgorsen. So I don't hate the guy or anything, but I definitely think of him in a different light now. And speaking of that, Kuz's corner, I had not heard that actually. Kuz, it's after I learned a lot of things, the constant Red Bulls and stuff made a lot of sense with the lifestyle about him. He definitely lives a bachelor lifestyle. We'll put it that way and stuff. I don't know if you've seen, it was a few months ago, I believe it was Sports Illustrated, ESPN one was talking to Tony Gibson, and they just happened to ask him about Dana Holgorsen and his interview at West Virginia, to become defensive coordinator. And he said he went to Dana Holgorsen's house, and all they did was drink beer and play the Golden Tee arcade game for about 8 hours and drink a shit ton of beer, was the exact quote from Tony Gibson about what his interview with Dana. So definitely a bachelor type of lifestyle and stuff. So but that's I
definitely heard similar things from people delivering Jimmy John's to his office, that he wasn't always even coherent when he got his sandwiches. So
yeah. Koo said he also heard that he liked the city of Houston because he could just blend in and not get so much attention. Yeah, exactly. It's a completely different vibe. Houston, you got the Rockets, the Astros, the all the big teams. It's a huge city. And it's easier for him to recruit there as well because truth be told, I also heard that's something Dana didn't really enjoy was recruiting, didn't really put a ton of effort into it. And I think we can see a lot of that now, especially when it comes to in-state recruits and things like that. And a lot of them saying, coming out now saying that Dana never even tried to recruit them. So, I can definitely see that, him wanting to blend in a little bit because, West Virginia, you're the only game in town, no professional sports team. You're going to get a lot. It's, the West Virginia fan base is rough. I've always said simultaneously West Virginia has both the best and worst fan base in the world. So, but yeah, definitely, I can understand him wanting to be at Houston. I think that's more of a match for his personality. Talk is Pitt in here. What's going on, Talk is Pitt? Good to see you.
How's it going, Talk?
Can't wait for September 1st. Going to be a good one, close one. He says that explains why WVU sucks. Coach was drunk.
This one's definitely
one I've heard a few times about that, and maybe not inaccurate. I don't know on the sidelines if he wasn't necessarily on the sidelines, but at least probably hung over a few times. So
yeah, definitely struggling.
Not inaccurate.
Midday heat.
Absolutely. Well, fall camp, wrapping up, a little bit talking about week one. We'll stay on here for a little bit longer. Hopefully, more people jump in and get some more questions going. We might kick it a little bit longer, but talked a little bit about the offense stuff. Let's a little bit about the defense. What stood out to you from the defensive coaches, from the defensive storylines, things you've heard about the personnel, whether it be some of the new guys like Jalen Shelton and Wesley McCormick and Rashad Ajayi, or some of the returners, Charles Woods, they've had some great things to say about him. Lee Koba, Dante Stills on the D-line, Taj Austin. Defensive names that have stood out to you or things the coaches have said?
Yeah, when it comes to our defense, I think the point that I would want to get across, just like talking about it, is, we got a lot of question marks on our defensive side of, this year. And so a lot of people don't really know what to expect. But I think our defense has got a sneaky chance to be really, really damn good. And, because we brought in some guys that really know how to play ball from the FCS. Lee Pogba's got the attitude that we want and need. And he's got the skill and ability too. And, Neil Brown has always been preaching about getting the right guys back there, the length and the athleticism that he's been dying for. And we have it now. And we've been having great defenses so far without having that I could only imagine that our defense this year can't help but be really good. So I feel like we're not hearing a lot about the people, behind this feed that you mentioned. I think Charles Wood's going to be dominant, of course. But I think that we're really going to learn a lot of new names on that defense this year that are really going to shock and surprise us. And so that's just kind of like my takeaway from it because, again, it's kind of hard to say, without putting pads on how these guys are doing. But I really do. I think people expect us to take a step back this year, but I really think that we might take a step up this year. I think that our defense might be really, really good.
Yeah. I think, even the coaches have spoke to as much, Neil Brown said that they think a chance to be the best defense they've had. And you look at that seems like a bold statement because you look at, 2020 during the COVID year, West Virginia, number 1 pass defense in the country, number 4 total defense, I believe it was. So for them to think this unit could be even better is big. But you look at that unit and one thing that they had was a, middle linebacker, a Mike linebacker that could run all over the field and make plays. I think they have that again in Lee Koba. They had some great players in the secondary. Their secondary was really strong, as I said, ended up, number 1 pass defense in the country that year. And this year you have Charles Woods, who I think has the potential to be West Virginia's best corner since probably like Rasul Douglas. And I think that a lot of people that are talking bad about West Virginia is, talking about questions in secondary because West Virginia doesn't return anyone really besides Charles Woods, anyone with experience at West Virginia. But, one of the things that stood out is Neil Brown, they've added over 1,000 snaps between Jasir Cox, Wesley McCormick, and Rashad Ajayi, all players coming from, Group of 5 and FCS level. But we've seen those type of players have success. And as we mentioned earlier, that blue-collar mentality be big with meshing with West Virginia's blue-collar mentality as well. So I definitely think this defense has a lot of potential. And if this defense is even just above average, I think it's going to be really good for West Virginia. And if it's the best defense truly that they've had since Neil Brown's been here, West Virginia might be in for a special season because I think the offense is definitely going to be the best we've seen since they've been here. I mean, would you agree with that? That's probably going to be the best offense we've seen in the Neil Brown era?
Yeah, but I mean, that's not saying much. I mean, if you look at it, in the second half of most of the games. But, the thing about the defense, the only weak spot I could see us having is a lot of our linebackers are not much of run stoppers. Lance Dixon's a little bit smaller, kind of a build. Lee Pogba is not massive. So, going up against some good running teams and the Big 12 might be a bit of a struggle. But, yeah, without a doubt, they're going to be one of the scarier backfields. And then our offense is going to take leaps and bounds. And I really think that what's going to show up big and heavy is the fact that every single position we have should take a giant leap forward. And that's because, one, our offensive line, stout, has been together for over a year now. They should be a lot more dynamic, a lot more dominant. That's the word that they like to use when they're talking about our offensive line. They should be a lot more dominant this year. And that's going to open up our quarterback play to be a lot more open. And not only is that our quarterback going to be more open, less pressured, it's going to be JT Daniels back there, who's way more talented than anything we've had under Neil Brown so far. And not only are we going to have JT Daniels back there, he's going to be thrown to wide receivers that we've now had for several years, building them up in this program that have looked good with a mediocre quarterback. And so now we've got really talented wide receivers with a quarterback with time. I mean, really, the ceiling has been blown off this house when it comes to the offense. So,
yeah. I agree. I think that, like you said, it's not a tall task to be the best offense of the Neil Brown era, but I definitely think that it would pay dividends if it is the best offense of the Neil Brown era. And I think it almost has to be for us to have the turnaround that we're hoping to have for sure. Hopping back in chat, Kuz's corner, Woods could be a lockdown corner. Yeah, 100% agree. I don't know if they're going to just play him on one side of the field or if they're just going to match him up against the other team's best receiver.
That's probably what's going to happen. I think they're going to match it.
Yeah, Shadon Brown said he felt like he could cover anybody in the nation. So I feel like that saying those words kind of makes it seem that way, that they might match him up. But I know traditionally West Virginia's kind of just played a left corner and a right corner. So we'll see. But that's why I think like the most crucial position battle right now is the corner on the opposite side of Woods, whoever ends up winning that job. But I do think that one thing Neil Brown said today is going to be big, the versatility that they have in the secondary, because your cat safety, Marcus Floyd, can move all over. He's a former corner. He can move all over. Jasir Cox, who's playing spear, can move all over, even play, back safety and outside linebacker. Both Charles Woods has played some at safety last season. He can move around. The other corner, who knows about them? That'll probably be, solidified. But the only one he said they're really not going to move around is Aubrey Burks or Hershey McLaurin, whoever's playing free safety. But everyone else, he said they feel like they can move around. And the same goes with the other spear, Davis Mallinger, who, has played, both other safety positions. So they could, have, 6 guys in, but play several different packages, moving them around. So that versatility, I think, is going to be big. But I think, Charles Woods is in for a special season. I feel like, let's see, what do we got here? G Smyrna. Is that G Smyrna 746? I think is what that says. He says, "Hey, Talk is Pitt. What happened to Slovis?" Talking about Keaton Slovis, but yeah, there was a report Keaton Slovis had been carted off the field at practice, but I believe that was either precautionary or the report was false. He's fine, minor injury. So the quarterback battle still ongoing between Nick Patty and Slovis, and I hope Slovis wins it because I really want to see that Daniel Slovis matchup. That's what I'm hoping for. So glad to hear that he's okay. Talk is Pitt. That is why I think Pitt will beat WVU. Y'all have to replace a lot in your defense. And despite losing Addison Pickett, Pitt is loaded on offense. Yeah, I mean, West Virginia does have to replace a lot. So that's definitely, a reason I could see why you would think Pitt would win the game. But West Virginia is replacing them with some good people, I think, that could potentially be even better. And some of those spots they're replacing, they're improving. I think with Lee Koba replacing Samito's an improvement. I think Charles Wood's an improvement over Nick Troy Fortune. List goes on. I won't go into it too much, but that's I understand that reasoning for sure. The battle to me that I'm looking at is West Virginia's offensive line versus Pitt's D line. Pat Bostic was on 3 guys before the game. I don't know if you got to hear that, Brad, but he was the quarterback of the 2007 squad, the dreaded 13-9 game, of course. But he's also Pitt's associate athletic director and does something else for them now as well. But he was on 3 guys before the game and said that he feels like this D-line is the deepest he's ever seen at Pitt. So, and they've been top 3 in the country in sacks each of the last 3 seasons. So the battle that I'm watching is their defensive line versus West Virginia's offensive line. I think if West Virginia can pass protect and move that defensive line off the ball at all, they've got a good chance if they can do that. But we'll see. Kuz's corner says, but if the guys you bring in are better than the guys you're replacing, how is it a step back? At minimum, you stay the same. Yeah, great point, Kuz. That's, kind of what I was saying about a lot of the guys West Virginia bringing in improvements over some of the guys they're replacing. Definitely agree. Talk is Pitt. I think Pitt still wins 10 games. I'd have to. I haven't looked at their schedule fully to say if I could agree or disagree with that. But I think Clemson bounces back and wins the ACC this year, though. I will say that much. But I don't know. Pitt, breaking a new offensive coordinator, going back to that pro style with Signetti. If Slovis is a starter, he might have a little bit of a transition going to a pro style offense, a lot different than what he's used to play in. But I don't know. Nick Patty might win that job. We'll see. But I don't know. Pitt winning 10 games. Any thoughts on that, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, I think Pitt's got a chance. They're returning ACC champions. They've got a really good defensive line. I will say that I'm glad that we're playing Pitt the first game of the season, I feel like, rather than getting them, 3 or 4 games in like we're getting Virginia Tech, which wouldn't be normal anyway, but we're getting Kansas, a conference game in there in the first 3 games somehow, some way. But yeah, I definitely think that Pitt's going to be in for a good year. But I think that that's where we kind of have the upper hand is we're not having to go through the same training and transition period with Keaton that they're having to do with Keaton Slovis right now. And I think that that's why you see a closer quarterback battle going on there than what we have here, not just because we have 2-3 real young guys that are, behind him, but because JT Daniels came into a system he already knew, and it didn't take him that long to adjust to it. And so, it's almost like we didn't even pull in a transfer quarterback. We just brought somebody that, took a year off,
Right. Exactly. He's, exactly the upper hand there because he's knows the terminology. I think Graham Harrell said maybe it's a little bit different, but he said you can see JT, when they do it, he's like, oh, okay. It clicks with him. Oh, this was just called this at USC, and now it's called this here. So it's like just like learning how to ride a bike. You don't have to learn how to ride a bike in. He just hops back on it and might be rusty for a second, but then you're rolling right along. Let's see. Kuz's Corner says they might win 10 games as long as they lose September 1st. Yeah, exactly. Pitt wins 10 games. Whatever, fine, as long as we beat them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and he brings up the schedule, and that's definitely something to be considered. I mean, the ACC is a little bit top heavy. You're not going to be playing the same quality of opponent that we're going to be playing, and you can have your opinions on that as much as you want to. Talk a spit, but I'm sure as heck not wanting to play Oklahoma State way more than I'm not wanting to play Syracuse. I'm not wanting to play Baylor way worse than I'm not wanting to play Louisville. I'm not wanting to play even Kansas State or Iowa State worse than I want to play Georgia Tech, So 10 wins I think is definitely achievable for Pitt, but I don't think one of them is going to be that first game of the season, though. I mean, we might undoubtedly be one of the top 3 toughest opponents for Pitt all year. So,
well, yeah, but in turn with that, I'll say West Virginia's offensive line that we're all thinking is going to be really good, maybe the best in quite some time, has a lot of potential. 3 West Virginia players on it, so the pride's there, and I think that we're going to know right away if it's true that they're going to be the offensive line we think they're going to be, because I think that West Virginia won't see a better defensive line probably than the one they played the first game of the season against Pitt.
Definitely. It's definitely going to be the telltale sign of what our season is to look like.
Yeah, absolutely. Kuz's Corner, they say Mallinger is really fast. Yeah, Davis Mallinger is a name to know for Mountaineer fans. Came in last year as an athlete, and I really liked him then because of his speed. They said he was the fastest player on the team then. Didn't really know coming in if he would play, defense or if he could possibly play receiver on offense. Put him at safety. I think he was, free safety a lot and maybe a little bit of cat safety on the scout team last year. This year moved him to spear, started there through the spring, kind of going to be battling with Jasir Cox, but I like to think they're going to be co-starters because you got different bodies. You got Mallinger, who's more of a safety, speedy corner type, can match up with receivers, and then you got Cox, who's more of a linebacker safety hybrid, can play more in the box and stuff. So I think they're both going to see a lot of playing time there. But yes, Mallinger, super fast, and I think you'll see him involved on special teams. Wouldn't be surprised to see him be West Virginia's kick returner on September 1st. Any thoughts on Davis Mallinger, Brad?
Yeah, boy's quick. That's about all I got.
Yeah, that's for sure. He's going to be fast, and I'm excited to see him. Talk is Pitt. Pitt won't lose September 1st. Way too much talent. Going to be close, no doubt, he says. Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. Our season prediction roundtable, it's a great time to plug it because, that's coming out. It's going to be released on August 15th. Coos Corner in the chat. Coos is going to be joining us, going through the West Virginia schedule to come up with our schedule predictions for our record predictions, for the 2022 season. One of our favorite shows of the year, our annual season prediction roundtable. Ours is going to be released on August 15th, and I haven't decided yet, what my pick's going to be for that first game, a win or a loss for West Virginia. Going back and forth in my head because I think it's going to be a really tough contest. A lot of great storylines. First backyard brawl in 11 years. The two USC quarterbacks, Graham Harrell, Country Roads uniforms. First, new game in
those uniforms are
Acrisure
going to be
Stadium.
spicy.
Yeah, it's so many storylines. So I think it's going to be close as well. I think it's going to be a really, really hard fought game. Players with a lot on the line, a lot of pride on the line for the States. And it's a sellout, standing room only tickets being sold. So it's going to be an awesome atmosphere. I can't wait to be there. All of Country Roads Webcast is going to be there. So hopefully, if you're a fan of us, if you're a follower of us, a friend, I don't like to say fans really. We're friends. We're all friends here. Mountaineer fans, if anything. But hopefully, you'll see us. I'm going to be wearing some Country Roads Webcast merch. So hoping to have some stickers on me as well. Hand them out up there and stuff to people that we see that we know and everything. But yeah, all three of us will be there. So we're real excited. But yeah, I think it'll be a close one. Moving on, catching up here in chat again. WVU Fan 23 back again. Really appreciate you tuning in and chiming in tonight, WVU Fan 23. It also sounds like from Neil Brown that our special teams will be better this year. I think we will have better kickers for kickoffs, and that will help us in field position. Yes, that's something that's also, I think, not being talked about a lot. I'm glad he brings that up. Great point, WVU Fan 23. Adding Parker Grotehouse for kickoffs, I think it's going to be big for West Virginia. They had struggled to get touchbacks last year. So being able to kick the ball in the end zone, get some touchbacks is going to help West Virginia in the field position game. Because I think looking at 2020 versus 2021, that's one of the big differences. It seemed like special teams was really good in 2020 to help West Virginia win some games, control field position. And, even 2019, the few games West Virginia did win with the limited talent they had, Neil Brown seemed to use special teams as his hidden weapon. And so I think getting back to that and putting more focus on that this season is going to be big. I think him maybe stepping away from the offense has helped him to do that, Brad. But what are your thoughts on the special teams helping West Virginia win some games this year with the additions of Parker Grotehouse and Oliver Straw at punter, and then, of course, Colton McGee? Neil Brown mentioned him today, that he's been one of the biggest surprises of camp is, him and Oliver Straw battling a punter, but he really singled out Colton McGee's performance today. But what are your thoughts on special teams for this season?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely an area that we can improve a lot upon from last year, because I think that was one of our weaker spots last year was the kickoff and some of the punting and stuff like that. So I'm definitely glad to see us making moves on that. And I think that Neil Brown knew that that's something he had to do with the team that he's kind of building, is that, field position is going to be really important for us. And if you watch any of our football last year, you know that Neil Brown liked to play the clock. Neil Brown loved to chew up the time. Neil Brown loved to have methodical, I'm blanking on it. Methodical plays, drives and stuff like that. So I think that when it comes down to that field position's huge. And so I definitely think that we're going to be taking a step up there, and I think it's going to help our game out a lot. Yeah,
absolutely. It's kind of a hidden gem, thing that you can do to push for some more wins, especially if in games where you feel overmatched, field position, time of possession, those little minute details are things that can help you win games. And I think that's one of the things we were all really excited about Neil Brown coming in, is that we were going to become a team that really couldn't beat itself, didn't beat itself rather, kind of similar to, some of the Bill Snyder, Kansas State squads we've seen over the years. And I think hopefully this year is the year we really see that start to happen. Coos' corner said with that schedule, they better win 10. I'd have to pull it up. I can't pull it up. Brad, I don't know if you got Pitt's schedule handy or not to look at it, but I know they play Tennessee. So I think Tennessee is going to be really good this year. I think that they're loaded. Lynn J. Dixon went there, but they're loaded other than that. The quarterback from G Tech, can't think of his name right now, Hendon Hooker, there it is. He's really good, and they got all kinds of weapons. I think Tennessee could surprise people in the SEC. I don't know that SEC East. I think Georgia might take a step back, personally. I'm not saying Tennessee's going to win the SEC East, but I think they're going to surprise some people. So that's a tough one for Pitt, and West Virginia's going to be tougher than they think. But what about their schedule, Brad? You got it up there?
Yeah, I do. They got us at home. They have Tennessee at home, and then they have a scary game, Western Michigan away. So, that's one to keep an eye on. Rhode Island, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, Louisville, North Carolina, Syracuse, Virginia, Duke, Miami to close off the season. So, a couple scary ones in there, but realistically, I don't see why they couldn't pull 10 wins.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Yeah, from the sound of it, I could see it. I could see it. It's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. Just depends on me how that offense clicks. Talks
Yeah.
Pitt, but Slovis played in the spring game. JT Daniels didn't. Actually, yeah, that's a good point. Slovis
Sure,
does have the
that did
advantage of
happen.
being there for the spring, so he did get a chance to learn the offense more. So maybe that evens out that a little bit as far as JT Daniels already knowing the offense. Who knows? But we'll see. Both of them are still in quarterback competition, so hopefully it's a Slovis versus Daniels battle. I think that's all we're hoping for and expecting for. But we'll see. Brent Jones, good to see you here again. What's going on, Brent?
How's it going, Brent?
Always like seeing you here and appreciate the support. It doesn't look like JT is very mobile / athletic. That's kind of concerning if our O-line doesn't step up big, hoping for the best. Yeah, I kind of, mentioned briefly a little bit earlier about JT not being the most mobile. He's not. I think he's definitely more mobile than Daggy. But the one thing about that, Brent, is I think the offensive line, of course, going to be improved being one. But the other thing is Jarrett Daggy held onto the ball a lot too long, didn't get the ball out quick, hit his reads fast. And, Neil Brown, without singling out Daggy and, saying stuff like that, mentioned that, talking about some of the sack numbers of the offensive line, that a lot of that, wasn't necessarily contributed to them. Sometimes the quarterback held on the ball too long, I think was something.
Yeah, or like
along the
you
lines
said,
of the quote.
tight ends missing blocks and running backs missing blocks,
Yeah.
and things along those lines. And that's something we saw a lot. Micah was out for a while, and then when Letty Brown wasn't in, it didn't seem like any other running back could block. So a lot of those didn't come back on the offensive line. But then again, sometimes they did look messy. And I'm not going to pass that up. Sometimes we just were getting beat on the line. So yeah, they still do need to make a big step up. But you're definitely right with what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It could be a concern if the offensive line struggles, definitely. And that, that goes back to they could still have some packages for Garrett Green to just have, that running quarterback option occasionally if they need it. But I think one thing that's going to alleviate that, of course, besides the offensive line improvement, is JT Daniels. I think gets the ball out quick and is really decisive with his reads. So I think that's going to alleviate a little bit of that. Kuz's Corner game day will be there too. Oh, of course. Yeah, I'm naming storylines. I felt like there was one big one I was forgetting. That's it. College game day going to be there. How could I forget?
Just that little one right
Debuting
there.
Just a small one. Just a small one, right? Talk is Pitt. I have Tennessee beating Pitt. Yeah, that to me, if I was going through Pitt's schedule, that would be one of the losses. So and then if you get another one in there, to West Virginia, then y'all can't lose any more along the way. Talk is Pitt to get that 10 wins. So who knows? That West Virginia games might be just as pivotal for Pitt as I feel it is for West Virginia. I think it's pretty pivotal for both programs, even though it's not a conference game anymore.
Yeah, but then you're really not even looking at a scary game until maybe UNC, and if not UNC, then Miami towards the end of the year. So, if they can make it through the first 2 weeks, they'll be looking good. But if those first 2 weeks start out rough, then could be that first boulder to fall.
Yeah, I believe in the early momentum being real. If you get off to a hot start, you can really ride that sometimes, I think. Brent Jones says, wish we were playing VT in Kansas before Pitt. I'd feel more comfortable. Yeah, that kind of speaks to what I was talking about, with getting the momentum going early. But the one thing that makes me more confident about the opening road game at Pitt is the fact that West Virginia did the exact same thing last year, played a rival on the road to open the season, and they got the taste of loss in that last year, to Maryland. So they know what not to do. They know what that feels like to go on the road and lose to your rival to open the season. So I think that kind of experience definitely helps them. But I get what you're saying. I'd probably feel more comfortable if it was set up that way as well. But I think West Virginia should definitely be ready for this Pitt game. And I think if they win it, though, it really sets up well for you because I think, obviously probably expecting to beat Kansas and Towson. So you're 3-0. Virginia Tech right there could potentially be a trap because on paper you're a better team, but you like your chances in that one too. So, yeah, I'd feel better if VT and Pitt were swapped for sure, I think, on the schedule. But being the way it is, I still think it's set up for West Virginia to have their best start to a season in, 4 years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I disagree. I think I like having Pitt first. Even though Virginia Tech is supposed to have a down year this year, I think that just going into it and having a bit more of an unknown and maybe being able to catch Pitt off guard. Because, I think Pitt's a damn good team, and so I'm going to take every advantage I can get. And I think that we're going to be more of we have more question marks, which means we have more of a chance of being a surprise, and that's the kind of faith that I have in us right now is being able to answer those question marks with some real top-tier talent. So I like Pitt first game of the year.
Yeah. I mean, I do, but to me, and well, I'll ask this to you because I'll just say it as a statement for me, but then I'll ask you in return. The toughest game on the schedule, or I don't know if I want to say toughest, but probably most important, most critical game on the schedule to me this season is the season opener, is Pitt. What about you?
For sure.
What do you think the most critical game on of the season?
100%. And I don't even think it's that much of a debate. I think that going into it, Neil Brown has a lot to prove, and this first game is going to be everybody's first view. So you got to come out and you got to look good. So without a doubt, it's the most significant game that we're probably going to play this year, unless it comes down to like a Big 12 championship play-in or the Big 12 championship itself. Without a doubt, this is our biggest game of the year.
Yeah, I know it's weird to say with it, not being a conference game, because you could still, go, have a shot at your conference, compete for your conference if you lose that game. But I think it's just the circumstances going in, like we talked about, all the storylines. But also for Neil Brown, it's big because he really needs something to, turn the tide. Us, of course, not for us personally. We're still all balled in, and as I think everyone should be. But there's a lot of people that have been saying, these losing records and don't understand the ins and outs, the fine, minute details of what it takes to build and turn a program around. So to me, beating Pitt would be really vital for him and vital for the program as a whole, how it's looked upon nationally and within its own fan base. And then, of course, also give you some momentum to possibly get off to a hot start, and who knows where that could take you. So definitely, yeah, I think it's the most important.
Yeah. And Talkus Pitt said down here, he said, agreed for WVU. Y'all need to win to set the tone. We need to be taken. We need to win to be taken seriously. I hate to break it to you, but you don't get taken seriously by beating WVU. It just doesn't happen. I don't care if we're the number 5 team in the country. People are not going to look at you and take you seriously because you beat West Virginia University. You want to be taken seriously, you beat us and Tennessee. And I mean, I'm saying that being a Mountaineer fan, I would love to be the team that people, they beat us and, all of a sudden they're nationally recognized. But we just don't get that kind of credit. We don't get that kind of support. So
right. Well, and I think in turn, I could say the same about West Virginia needs to win this to be taken seriously because, I mean, let's be honest, Brad, 05 to 07, even a little bit beyond that, in some of the Gino and Tavon years, West Virginia was always, talked about nationally, but past about decade or so, probably about 2013 on, save the Will Greer years and maybe the Skylar Howard year, but even then they weren't talked about too much. West Virginia hasn't really been a talking point nationally, so West Virginia, to get back to relevancy, to get back to, where we all want to see them get back to being a consistently good, consistently winning program, West Virginia needs to win it to be taken seriously as well. So I think that's something that can be said for both teams.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where we've had relevant games that, I got you, talking spit the other way around. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things where we've had like relevant wins that have been impactful, but have not been impactful for us. And that's just kind of, we've been playing spoiler for a while, and that's kind of where we've been at. So,
oh yeah, talking spit said my bad. I meant to say that the other way around. Yeah, it makes more sense. So he meant to say Pitt needs to win to set the tone. West Virginia needs to win to be taken seriously again. So yeah,
makes way more sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
WVU fan 23. Who do you guys see win the number 2 quarterback job? I think will be Goose Crowder, but there's a lot of camp left for the quarterbacks to compete. Yeah, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but didn't get too far deep into it. But yeah, I think this week coming up is going to be big for that first scrimmage of the fall coming up on Thursday. Then one more a few more days of camp after that, and then it's on to pit preps. So hopefully they'll kind of want to have that in line within the next couple weeks for sure. Bradley, what about you? I'll let you take it first. Who do you think wins the number 2 quarterback job?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of – I think that it's going to be second quarterback by committee, really. I think that, unless JT Daniels gets hurt, I think that, like I said, I could see some packages with both Nico Markill and Garrett Green in there. We heard a lot about Goose for the spring game, but after that, he's been kind of silent. And, I don't know if I'm willing to say that he can win that second job by himself or outright just yet. So I'm going to go with a combo of Garrett Green and Nico Markill.
I like that pick. I do. That's the bad thing I feel about this is I feel like someone's going to be odd man out. And as much as Goose Crowder was the favorite in the spring, like I said, he's been sick the first couple of days of fall camp, and I don't want to say that's counting against him or anything, but I feel like Garrett Green, I think there's still going to be packages for him, so he's going to be in the fold. but I don't know if he would be the quarterback to take over. I think you might look more to Nico or Goose for that. And if it is Nico this season, then I don't know how long Goose sticks around. I hope he is. Hope he's a program guy. Hope he stays around. But I definitely wouldn't be surprised either if Goose is the backup quarterback. I really have it tough to call between the three. I think Nico being a true freshman, that's tough to have him be your backup. I don't know. I think Garrett Green is my favorite right now. If you had to make me pick a name, I'm going Garrett Green because I think he's going to have packages and stuff. But hopefully he's improved his reads and ability to read defenses and stick with the play a little bit more than take off with his legs so quickly. But I think they'll have packages for him for design runs. But I guess Garrett Green if I had to pick.
Yeah, but unfortunately that's the time I've got. I've got to roll, guys. But appreciate having you guys on.
Sounds good.
I hate that I got to roll so early, but just getting that.
No worries. I'm gonna jump off here for too many more minutes myself anyway.
Yeah,
but glad you.
I'll leave it to Cruz to wrap it up then.
Yeah, man.
Have a good night,
take
guys.
It easy, Brad.
Let me follow the Country Roads Webcast, guys.
Absolutely.
Peace.
Appreciate it, Brad. So got Bradley in here with me for this one at least. I'm not gonna stay on too much longer myself, but definitely wanted to get a live stream in. I thought about doing a video talking about CJ Donaldson's position change, and thought about doing a video talking about recapping week 1 of fall camp a little bit. Then I figured out what the heck. Let's see if Bradley or Steven's around, just do a live stream, because I really enjoyed it the last one I did a couple nights ago. So we're going to try and do more of these in the future, give the YouTube side some more exclusive stuff and, get to interact a little bit more with our friends and, build the Country Roads Webcast community as we continue to try and do that. So really appreciate you guys that have tuned in and chimed in with your questions and your comments and your concerns. WVU football channel, but glad to see, people like Talk is Pitt and others in here as well. So it's always good to talk college football. Can't ever get enough college football. Probably going to play some college football on the Xbox when I hop off here. Yeah, I'm still playing NCAA football 14 on the 360. A lot of people still do. They update the rosters every year. I'm in a couple online dynasties, so still definitely a favorite hobby of mine. And can't wait July of next year. They're releasing college football again, so I'm going to have to give me a PS5 to continue doing that. But I think all in all, week 1 of fall camp, if I had to say anything about it, probably the best of the Neil Brown era so far. And, that's one of the best things you can say about it is the OTAs, I think, have factored into that a lot. College being able to do OTAs this year, a little bit more polished going into fall camp. So I think that's good, but really positive reports all around, not too much negative thus far. I'm excited to see where the quarterback battle goes. I think this defense has potential. And like I said, starting off with the first game with so many great storylines, it's really building the anticipation a lot. So can't wait for September 1st. Let me catch back up and chat before I hop out of here. But like I said, really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're here and you haven't already, hit the like button. If you're watching on the playback, hit the like button even. Still will help this video hit the YouTube algorithm, help its performance, and help our future videos performances as well. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Helps us, helps you, helps get more of this Mountaineer football content out to Mountaineer Nation. And if you are subscribed, hit the notification bell beside the subscribe button. That way, when we do go live and do streams like this, we'll be doing them, post game after the games. But when we do them, live, spur of the moment like this, you'll be notified and you can hop in the chat, talk to us a little bit, interact, and tune in. So do that. Of course, follow us on Twitter. It's on the screen there at WVU Country Roads. Also, Facebook and Instagram, just Country Roads Webcast, one word. Appreciate everyone that's tuned in on Twitch tonight. Definitely, that's a new platform we've added this year. So, streaming on 3 different platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Appreciate you tuning in on anyone that you do tune in here as we talk Mountaineer football with Mountaineer Nation. Cliffhanger game day is going to be a nice perk. Yeah, it really is, Cliff. Like I said, me, Bradley, and Steven all going there. Hopefully going to be able to catch that somehow. I don't know if it's going to be – I feel like it's probably going to be inside the stadium, right, since it's like just an hour before kickoff, not going to be like the typical one they do in the mornings where it's outside the stadium. But hopefully it's still an area where people can come watch it and stuff. And we're hoping to do a live from the game, hopefully hoping to do something pregame and postgame. So it'd be cool to do it with like College Game Day in the background or something. Who knows? We're going to see what it's like when we get up there to Pittsburgh and to Acrisure Stadium, but we're hoping to definitely do some type of live from the Country Roads Webcast from Pittsburgh, since we're all three going to be there for the return of the backyard brawl. So definitely game day going to be a nice perk. Really excited about that. Talk is Pit, doesn't W have a bad omen when College Game Day comes around? Yes, Talkers Pit, we do, but that just means that we're due for a win, right? We've had so much going in one way, it's got to come back the other way sooner. So hopefully this is it. But yeah, off the top of my head, I know 2011 LSU, it was there. Ended up losing that game, but still the loudest game I've ever been to at Mountaineer Field, and one of the favorite memories I have when me and my dad went there, and it's definitely the loudest game I've ever been to. That was the game where I literally learned the expression "too loud to hear yourself think" is real. Like I was so loud, I really had trouble thinking. Like, and that was the first thing I'd ever experienced like that. So definitely the last game I've ever been to. 2011 LSU, and then 2014 TCU. They did end up losing that one. A game they should have won. The game where Clint Trickett got his head ripped off, suffered a concussion, no face mask, no penalty, and then he was never the same. Not only for that game, but for the rest of the season. West Virginia couldn't really pass well because he wasn't all there, and ended up having to run the ball too much, gave up a big lead. TCU came back, kicked the game, won a field goal, won by 1 point, I believe. So, yeah, not a great history with College Game Day involved in West Virginia games, but hoping to turn that around. This will be, I believe, the 5th time West Virginia participated in a game where College Game Day was present. So hopefully turn that around this time, Talkers Pit, and get a win in the return of the backyard brawl. But that being said, gone over an hour, so a little bit mouth dry, getting late. Probably going to turn in before too long. Get ready for work tomorrow. But appreciate everybody that's tuned in here to the Country Roads Webcast live stream, fall camp recap, and plus a little Q&A. Always love getting a little Q&A doing these live streams. And like I said, tune into our social media, Twitter at WVU Country Roads, Facebook and Instagram, Country Roads Webcast. We'll do this again before too long. That being said, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz. And until next time, let's go, Mountaineers.